안녕하세요, 여러분. Essential Korean K-쌤입니다. Hello, this is Kay from essentialkorean.com. In this episode, I want to talk about 3 very basic things about the sentence structure of Korean. Are you ready for today's lesson? Alright, let's get started. First aspect to talk about, the word order. The Korean language is often called an SOV language, meaning the basic word order of a sentence is subject, object, verb. However, in reality, the position of the subject and the object is not rigidly set, but can be switched around. So if you've heard that Korean is an SOV language, do not take it to be a rule set in stone. Let me explain this with an example sentence. I study Korean. If you asked Koreans how to say I study Korean in Korean, you probably will get a few variations, as some will place particles and some may not, and some will give you an informal form and some a formal form. I will give you a polite informal style in a simple form without any particles. Here you go. 나 한국말 공부해요. 나 means I, 한국말 means Korean language, and 공부해요 means study. Listen again and please repeat after me. 나 한국말 공부해요. 나 한국말 공부해요. 나 한국말 공부해요. Now, let's say that you are working in Korea and have been learning the language. Someone says, "You're not learning Korean, right?" To this question, you can say, 아니요, 나 한국말 공부해요. Meaning, no, I study Korean. But you can also choose to respond, 한국말 나 공부해요. Putting 한국말, Korean language first, and then 나, I next, and then 공부해요, study. You're saying, the Korean language, I do study. Thus, if you want to emphasize the Korean language, 한국말, you can say the word first before the subject I, 나 in Korean. Here is another example. Let's say you want to say, I eat kimchi. You will say, 나 김치 먹어요. 나, I, the subject of the sentence. Kimchi, the famous Korean cabbage side dish, the object of the sentence. 먹어요, eat, the verb. So the order of the sentence is subject, object, verb, the SOV order. Now, let's say that you and your colleagues went out for lunch to a Korean restaurant on the first day at work. And one of them says, you don't eat kimchi, right? Well, the fact is, you love kimchi and have been eating kimchi for years before coming to Korea. So, you are surprised he just assumed you would not eat kimchi. You choose to respond, 김치 나 먹어요. Meaning, 김치 I do eat. Thus, you can say 나 김치 먹어요. I kimchi eat, which is in the order of SOV, or 김치 나 먹어요. 김치 I eat in the order of OSV, object, subject, and verb. This flexibility in the sentence structure we just witnessed in Korean, which is more common in colloquial speech, is quite different from the English language, where the word order in the sentence is quite rigid, that the changing the word order will change the meaning. In Korean, on the other hand, the context takes precedence over the word order when it comes to the meaning. Though the word order is flexible for the subject and the object, please note that in general, the verb usually comes at the end of a sentence. Please listen to the sentence for I study Korean. 나 한국말 공부해요. 한국말 나 공부해요. And here again are the sentences for I eat kimchi. 나 김치 먹어요. 김치 나 먹어요. Okay, let's move on to another aspect to note about Korean sentences. In Korean, a verb alone is sufficient to be a complete sentence. Not only an imperative, also known as command form, as we see in English, but also as a regular affirmative statement. For example, eat can only be a command or an imperative telling someone to take the action of eating. On the other hand, the Korean phrase 먹어요 can mean eat in English, telling someone to have some food. Depending on the context, it can also mean I eat, he eats, or they eat. There's another verb phrase you heard earlier, 공부해요, which means study. It can mean please study, telling or asking someone to do the action of studying. But the verb phrase 공부해요 alone can also mean I study, she studies, or they study, depending on the context. In fact, the subject and or the object in Korean sentences are often omitted when they are readily understood from the context. Let's look at some examples. Example 1. Again, I study Korean. 나 한국말 공부해요 can be said without the subject 나, I, if it is understood in the context. Thus, you can have a sentence 한국말 공부해요 in which the subject 나, I, is absent but still means I study Korean. Example 2. I eat kimchi. 나 김치 먹어요 can be said without the subject 나, I, if it's understood in the context. Thus, we can have a sentence 김치 먹어요 in which the subject 나 is absent, but the sentence still means I eat kimchi. Okay, moving on to the next point. In English, switching from a statement to a question required some change in the word order or an auxiliary verb. In Korean, the change is in the intonation, not in the word order. For example, to say it is ketchup, you would say 케첩이에요. Now, to ask if something is ketchup, you would say the same sentence but raise the intonation at the end. So it goes like this. 케첩이에요? Is it ketchup? So compare these two sentences. 케첩이에요. It is ketchup. 케첩이에요? Is it ketchup? And let's listen to some other sentences. 핸드폰이에요. It's a cell phone. 핸드폰이에요? Is it a cell phone? 아파트예요. It's an apartment. 아파트예요? Is it an apartment? 택시예요. It's a taxi. 택시예요? Is it a taxi? Let's do this with the two featured sentences in today's episode. 한국말 공부해요. I study Korean. 한국말 공부해요. 한국말 공부해요. Now, raise the intonation and make it a question. Let's hear it. Right. 한국말 공부해요? Do you study Korean? So compare these two sentences. 한국말 공부해요. 한국말 공부해요? Now, the second featured sentence. I eat kimchi. 김치 먹어요. 김치 먹어요. 김치 먹어요. Now, raise the intonation and make it a question. 김치 먹어요? Do you eat kimchi? 김치 먹어요? 김치 먹어요? Now compare these two. 김치 먹어요. I eat kimchi. 김치 먹어요? Do you eat kimchi? Or does she eat kimchi? Or do they eat kimchi? So, here's the gist of the key points explained about Korean sentences today. 1. In Korean, the word order is not rigid. The subject and the object in a sentence can be switched around depending on where the speaker wants to put emphasis. 2. The verb usually comes at the end of a sentence. And 3. The speaker can choose to omit the subject or the object of a sentence if it is readily understood in the context. Thus, the context takes precedence over the word order to interpret meaning in the Korean language. Let's do a short application practice. We learned that 뭐 is what in Korean. With this question word, I'll ask you what you study. 뭐 공부해요? 뭐 공부해요? 뭐 공부해요? Now, what is your answer? This would be your answer. 한국말 공부해요 if you want to say I study Korean. If you're studying drama, then you will say 드라마 공부해요. If you're studying computer program, 컴퓨터 프로그램 공부해요. Now I'll ask what you are eating. 뭐 먹어요? 뭐 먹어요? 뭐 먹어요? Now if it's kimchi that you're eating, you will say 김치 먹어요. If it's hamburger that you're eating, you would say 햄버거 먹어요. Now if it's bibimbap that you're having, 비빔밥 먹어요. Okay, maybe this question made some of you hungry, so I will let you go and we'll call it a day. See you later in the next one. Until then, be well. 고맙습니다. 안녕히 계세요.